What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Brand new patch today, and it has a new game mode, which I actually thought was kind of fun. And I think there's definitely some good things with that new game mode. There's also some really stupid things that were included with the game mode, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. First, let's get to the hero balance changes. For those waiting for the Roadhog rework that was not included in this balance patch, that is going to happen in maybe about 2 weeks or so. But let's get to these hero changes. The first one is going to be Junker Queen, who got some pretty nice buffs. So the first thing is the passive, which is Adrenaline Rush, and it will now heal for remaining wound damage when an enemy dies with wounds on them. So what this means is that previously, when the enemy got eliminated, you would just stop getting the heal from your passive, but now it will instantly heal you whatever was remaining. So whereas before you could potentially lose a lot, now you will always get it. So this is a very nice change for Junker Queen. Next up is the ability Carnage. This is the Axe Swing. It is an 8-second cooldown, and they've changed it so now it will be reduced by 2 seconds for every enemy it impacts. So you hit 1, it'll be 6 seconds. You hit 2, and it's 4 seconds. So this means that if you are up close with a bunch of enemies, you can use this thing very quickly. I mean, you're looking at potentially a 2-second cooldown for a lot of this. I mean, you know, I guess you could get it to a 0, almost an instant cooldown if everybody was completely grouped up. That's probably not going to happen very often. But I mean, you're looking at even with just 2 enemies, a 4-second cooldown on this. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice with that. Next up is going to be the Jagged Blade, and the throw impact damage reduced from 80 to 50. So they reduced that damage, but what they did was they added an impact, a 30 wound damage to the target. So you are going to have less instant damage, and now you're going to do a little bit, you're going to do a little bit more on the wound damage, and this will stack with other wounds that are caused by quick melee and the returning blade. So you now have, you know, the double going on, and once again, when the enemy gets eliminated, you get that instant heal. So that's really nice. Next up is Zarya. She recently got a bunch of nerfs, and it looks like they are now trying to unnerf her because they went too far. And honestly, this is just the way that Blizzard balances, and I don't like it at all. They'll have good characters and bad characters, and they're like, well, we'll just nerf all the good characters so that everybody's equally bad. And then we run into situations like this, and it's just, I don't know, I don't think it's a good way to balance, and it doesn't feel good. So we have the energy generation rate, which is when you're building up your energy, it is going to slowly start to go away when you're not using your bubbles. Previously, it was 2.2 per second. Now it's 2 per second. So it's going to be a little bit slower. And when you have low energy, this is probably not going to show up that much. But when you have, you know, 70, 80, 90 energy, you're going to be able to keep it, maintain it a little bit easier up at the higher amounts. Also, to help with that, you'll notice that it now takes 2 seconds for you to start losing that energy instead of the 1 second that it did previously. So you get to keep your energy a little bit longer than you would before. Next up is Brigitte. She has some pretty significant issues in the game right now. I don't want to go too much into it. Basically, it's just the way that the character is currently designed. You're better off using any other healer in pretty much every single situation. Really, she's completely useless Diamond and above. Platinum, she's not really all that great. And she can only kind of be useful in Bronze, Silver, and Gold. So, what did Blizzard think was the best course of action in order to fix this situation? Well, they made her shield have an extra 50 health. So instead of 250, it's now 300, which, by the way, will not solve the problem in the upper bracket at all because of the previously mentioned significant problems with the character design as she currently works in the 5v5 game mode. And this is just going to make it more annoying for people in Bronze, Silver, and Gold to deal with enemy Brigittes. So yeah, it doesn't fix anything, and it just makes it worse. Good job. Have fun with that one. Next up is Moira, and this is a very strange and also incredibly stupid change to the character. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a buff to the character. It is definitely a significant buff to the character, but it doesn't make any sense because it's encouraging a bad style of play, which is the DPS Moira, right? So you are Blizzard is now actively encouraging players to DPS Moira, and I don't know why they would want to do that, because it's not as effective, and it's mostly detrimental to your team. But anyways, they decided that they're going to do it. So what's happening here is when you are using your healing meter, right? You see it's down to halfway, and then when you throw out a damage orb, the damage that you get, or that you do from that damage orb, will now charge your healing meter faster. Kind of, you know, similar to how your normal primary attack will work. It doesn't do quite as much from what I can tell. So if we use up all of this, and then let's see if I can bounce it a couple of times. So you see, it's gonna help recharge it a little bit, but it looks like it's maybe about 30% as what your normal would be. So I don't really understand. Like, it's weird. I guess it might help in some situations, but if your teammates are taking damage, right, you're using this and your teammates are taking damage, you're almost always going to be better off throwing out a healing orb in order to heal them. Now, unless there's going to be some situations where maybe you're fast moving or something like that or whatever, and your orb isn't going to get much effectiveness out of it. And maybe in that case, you can throw it off to the enemy. But it doesn't seem like the value trade isn't there, right? Like, so the amount of benefit you would get from the healing orb is more than the benefit you would get from recharging your healing meter. So I don't understand this. I don't understand this change, and it's just weird. And once again, Moira is the only support healing character in the entire game. The only healing character in the entire game that has a pure damage ability.
That will be all.
I don't know why. She just does, and it leads to DPS Moiras, and it just seems like bad design to me. So those are all the balance changes. Some of them seem to be pretty good. Some of them are questionable, to say the least. Moving on, let's talk about the new game mode, which I think is actually pretty decent. I enjoyed playing it. I did see a whole bunch of people complaining about it in the actual matches that I was playing, and talking about how it's so stupid, and you have all these tanks in it, and it takes too long, and this and that, blah, 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 blah. Now, I will dunk on Blizzard whenever they do something stupid, which is very often. They do stupid things constantly. However, I like the game mode. I think it's kind of fun. It reminds me of the first time that I played the Junkenstein Revenge and some of the other, kind of event game modes, like the archive game modes and stuff. It reminds me of that because it's something new, it's fresh, it's interesting, and I thought, for the most part, it was fun to play. However, having said that, there are some really significant issues with it. The first of it being that it is not remotely balanced at all. So one of the rewards that we're supposed to get for this is whichever character happens to win the most is going to get a statue on Ilios. However, I think some characters, like Reinhardt, for example, this is pretty much impossible, because Reinhardt is completely and utterly worthless on all of the free-for-all maps that they have in this mode, every single one of them except for Chateau. That one map, Reinhardt does amazing. All the other maps, he is absolutely, completely, and utterly worthless. And I just don't see how he could possibly, like, it's a stacked deck. Like, he couldn't possibly win the statue because you can't win with that character on most of the maps that are available here. You only get one map out of, what is it, like the 4 or 5 maps that are available for this. So basically you're, a 1 in 5 chance that you have any luck, any possibility of winning with Reinhardt on one of these maps. Some of the other characters are not exactly what I would call balanced either. And some of the maps are, I don't know. Like, the Ilios map, I think, works. I think the Chateau map does work as well. The one that I have the biggest problem with is the Colosseum map, because that is just gigantic. I think they have almost the entire map unlocked. It's something like 90% of it or something like that. Basically, the entire map is unlocked almost. And it is just way too large of a map in order to have it for free-for-all, because you spend so much time just run around looking for other players, and it is frustrating. It is kind of some of the similar problems that I had with the Petra map, which does kind of work here, but it also kind of doesn't. Again, you can't have these gigantic free-for-all maps because then you spend so much time running around looking for other players. So the balance of the characters is largely dependent on the maps, and some of the maps are complete garbage. So while the game mode itself is fun to play, there's still a lot of problems with it, and it just feels like they didn't test it, right? Like, they had this good idea, which was having all these interesting things that you can do and whatnot, and I think it works. But then they kind of, like, stopped halfway through, and they said, well, it's good enough, right? You know, it's the Blizzard, it's now the current Blizzard. It's the current Blizzard, it's good enough, we'll just, you know, rush it out and release it kind of thing. And I think it's a decent map, it's a decent game mode, rather, and it kind of is annoying because it could have been so much better. It could have been amazing and incredibly fun, and instead it's just kind of, well, I queue up, and depending on what map I get, determines whether or not I just leave. Because if I get the Coliseum, then I'm just going to quit out. I don't want to play on that because it's not fun. It's a stupid map. Like, the map itself, I like the map. I mean, push mode is terrible. That's another topic. But the map itself is nice. It's a good map, but it's just, it doesn't work for free-for-all. Ironically, it doesn't work for push either. But, again, another topic. But, again, it's like they started with something good, and then they just quit halfway, and we ended up getting this game mode. So, I don't know. I would give it like a C+. Like, overall, for this new game mode, it's something that's fun, that I might enjoy, but I don't know. Like, it definitely could have some improvements. There you go. Anyways, so what do you guys think of the new game mode and the balance changes that we just got with this patch? Let me know down below.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and